has a red ground?
Yeah, most of these do.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was going to say was that in the modulated color, that I always start with a dark and then go toward the light. And the darks, there's no black. I don't use black at all. So any of the darks are chromatic. And that's why I could, when I get into the gray values, that sort of picks up whatever I was mixing into, like a blue gray or whatever, red gray, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, you can see some of these little lines are still from underneath the ground. They're picks up the red.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea really is to, as we were talking before, is to sort of get the modulation from one value to another, or one color into another color, in subtle steps, subtle modulated steps, which would give a kind of a harmonious aspect to it, and
Right.
then contrast it with the more high keyed colors. So more high key colors really weren't part of that modulated system that I use.
Right. I'm going to show another painting here. This is a rather large one. It's a diptych. And again, this one has a red ground too. Like you said, most of them do. But what I found so interesting, and I did not know this, is that you don't use any black.
No, that's what I just said, that it's,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
darks are all chromatic, and which allows me. Now this one really did go from that dark into a lot of the gray blue light, and then I would switch.
Like here.
Yeah, I would switch into a color, and there's
I see this blue here.
Yeah.
And it picks up over here.
So I should also say, in the collages that I use, that I appropriate from a lot of different things, including other artists. And I'll use Miro, I'll use Picasso, Leger.
Mm-hmm.
They were most my favorite ones that I would use.
Mm-hmm.
And just any other sort of pattern imagery that I could find. And I use a lot of stencil, like the fleur-de-lis image, and the, well, that's about, yeah, well, there's some little, the circular, of course, are from stencils. And,
early when we were installing your show, I said to you, I said something like, your paintings remind me of New York. And you thought that was funny.
yeah.
Because you were thinking, because you came from the West Coast, you thought you were bringing the West Coast with you. But
I did in the beginning. No, I was really influenced by a lot of the San Francisco painters at that time. My graduate work was at San Francisco State, and that was in the 60s, like the middle 60s. And was the abstract, the figurative, Demoncorn, Parks, and Bishop. And a lot of the people were doing work like that, or similar to that, when I was there. And they came more out of the San Francisco Art Institute. But I was still looking to the east at that time, and I was sort of more interested in, well, Motherwell and de Kooning, of course, and not that other people weren't doing sort of abstractions like I was, but it was not many, not many at that time.
mm-hmm. And you came to the East Coast when you were, you came to teach at University of Virginia in Richmond?
No, no, no. No, I came to teach at Virginia Commonwealth
Oh,
University, and
okay, got it mixed up. Yep.
and which was called Richmond Professional Institute at that time. And the year I was there, they affiliated with the Medical College of Virginia and became a university. And it was a big school even then. I mean, they hired so many people that year that it made the art department itself was quite large. There was 16 full-time faculty and just painting and printmaking alone. And
Wow.
and it's even grown since then. So, and it's become a very highly regarded art school.
And from there you went to New York City.
Oh, I went to in '74. I moved to the city, New York City, and taught there too.
You were at Parsons for quite a while, right?
Well, I was there for 28 years, but I had taught some other visiting artists in different colleges, and also at the Brooklyn College School of Art when it was, until it was, they closed that.
Right. I actually first met you when you taught at Purchase.
Well, I don't.
Well, you weren't my teacher, but you were a visiting artist.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. You had my wife.
Right. No, I actually never had. I think Jeanette was another. We were in a group crit. She was,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael Torlin was there then, and
Right.
John Cohen, Bob Berlin, Harriet Shore. Oops, I went too far. So I was going to bring up, there's a series of work in the show that's a little bit smaller. They're 24 by 18. And I'm just going to go through a couple of these. They're all the same size. And we actually have them hanging in a grid on the wall.
Speaking of a grid, I used the grid in most of these. Oh, that one didn't have it, but the one prior, yeah, I used a grid sort of format to it, and then and they were done a little bit different, although they were started as collages, and but what I did is sort of use less imagery on it, and which gave me a different kind of challenge to work with. And one of the ideas I've always worked from very early on was the idea of contrasting relationships. So not only in the color and working through that harmonious idea, contrasting with more high key color, but I also in the imagery, so you get a contrast of the images too.
Yeah. I mean, they look like, so I think like some of them feel like maps. Sometimes I think the grid sometimes maybe makes it feel like.
Could be, yes.
This feels like some cosmic, with a starburst,
Yeah.
some, but you know, like there's so many interesting elements. These, I love these, you have this kind of shape in a couple of your paintings.
Yeah.
What does that stem from? The kind of,
Well,
swirly.
again, they were, I don't know where that came exactly, but it was taken from something. Could have been appropriated from another artist. I'm not sure.
Right.
I had so much of this material the collage material, and when I would structure the collage, you know, I just kept grabbing things and putting them together to see what came out to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think of like spatial too, and so a lot of times I'll sort of set up so there's a maybe a contradiction in and a contrast in that too.
Mm-hmm.
One is pretty in the overlap. You can see it, the spatial referencing here pretty easily, but some of them get a little more complex and also have a contradiction to them, where you see them.
Is there one that you could?
The idea of
Well,
figure ground. No,
yeah.
these were a little more simple in the range of imagery. And
Yeah, this series is got. I guess it is. Well, then you've got something like this, which is. Is that showing up on the screen? Okay.
no, it's not. It's not. You have
Yeah. So let me. Something's. I
you
think
got to
it's because
cut
I.
off a little bit.
Yeah. Is that better?
That's it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, actually, you've got the. I think it was the series. This series.
Well,
There's a lot going on.
this is totally different from. Yeah,
Sorry.
stay there for a minute, because
Yep.
when
Sorry.
when I started with the collages, actually the collages at that time, this all started with collages, but in the beginning I painted the collages, and they were small, a lot much smaller, and I did a lot of them. I was teaching at Parsons and New Paltz, and I didn't have much time to be in the studio, so I did a lot of very small paintings, and started using little collage pieces in them. And well, let me go back to the collage. Once I really got into it, I did about 40 something of those collages, painted collages, and they were pretty much just dark light, not color like this hardly at all, but also it's when I really started using the red ground. Uh, and then I really wanted to use them as in paintings rather than just the small collage. That's when I got the idea of projecting them on the canvas. But anyway, what I was going to say is that with and they were called funny papers, and I started them because the friend of mine was doing some renovation in a restaurant that he was going to open, and found wrapped around the water pipes were newspapers from the 40s, 45, 45, 46. And in those were the comic strips. And so I started using those just sort of individually, and then started making the whole things, and I called it funny paper. The point I'm trying to make with this is that when I started using the images that recognizable imagery and the cartoon imagery, I try to set up something where there was some dialogue between, where there was some interaction. And if it's, you know, looking at one or looking at another. And I just wanted to point that out, because this is the only one in the show that is like that. And although I have, these are from series, this was called the melodrama, with the big O, O drama.
Mm-hmm.
and mellow. So anyway, but they still were approached the same way, same ideas, same
Right.
way to try to resolve them.
Right.
And here I'll just mention this because I did most of it really as overlapping planes for the spatial referencing, and then sometimes contrasting by something that would be three-dimensional, look three-dimensional, so you could get ambiguity in that kind of space.
Mm-hmm. I'm
But
going to pull up.
the other ones don't have it
Right.
like this. They'll have other things that I talked about in the how you look at it. The whole idea was to set up this sort of structure where you, you you could get a different way of looking at it, again, spatially and structurally, and some
Yeah,
things.
and you talk in your statement about trying to reach this kind of gestalt with your paintings.
Well,
I think
yeah.
I like that that thought. And when I look at your work, I mean, I feel like you know, there's a whole. They become so whole, you know, but there's so much going on, in, but they're all connected. It's all.
Well, that's definitely something that I was trying to do is when you set up all these real complex and a lot of different kind of images, when you see it as a whole, a gestalt, then you have, you know, it's just the resolving the structure of it. And that's,
Can you talk about how you think about music being close to the way you're thinking
well,
when you're
I've always
painting?
been very intrigued with music and the structure of music, and really how all the arts sort of have that similar, things become components, and you put the components together to get a a whole. And it doesn't matter what it is, if it's literature or if it's opera, if it's uh, you, you know I in my classes at Parsons, I actually invited a composer to come in and talk to my drawing class. I taught drawing at Parsons, and I was teaching a class called Drawing Concepts. Rather, it was more focused on how one resolves a drawing than you know looking at observational drawing. Not that I didn't use things like that, but really the emphasis really was how one arrives at a drawing solution. And that's why I brought in the composer. I brought in a fellow who was doing design work too. And I also always talked about, especially opera, I always talked about students at Parsons, should go to the Met at least one time. And most of the Parsons students, good portion of them were foreign or out of state. And I emphasized that they should, that to me, that was like one of the top collaborative art in the world, and especially at the Met. And how they put all these minds together to come up with, these beautiful, starting from the composer, the Puccini, whatever. And in fact, I encouraged it all through my time at Parsons. And the very last year I taught there, I actually took 30-something students to the Met to see La Boheme. And I could have taken more, really. I just ran out of tickets. And it was a good way to end my time at Parsons.
Wow, I wish I was one of your students. So I'm gonna pull up another image. I'm gonna look for something a little bit different. Have we looked at this one? Yeah, I don't know if we've looked at this one. Harlem Shuffle. Again, there's that kind of swirly thing happening there.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't be using the same image again.
Yeah. So I have some audience participation here. So Ariel says, she was Jack's student. I very much enjoyed his classes and creative exercises. Wow, the show looks great. Congratulations. And somebody else, Dan Devine and Laura Stone. Thank you, Jack. This is great. And I will go see the show and get together with you and Jeanette soon.
Great.
So I don't know if do you see that chat feature, Jack, on your, it's okay if you don't, I'm just wondering. Yeah, I'll monitor that. You don't have to worry about that.
Okay. No, I see 3.
But I do want everyone to know if they do want to ask Jack a question, I can see the chat feature and I will, if you type something in there, I can make sure we get it to Jack. So I do want to say something about Jack. What I've noticed about your work over the years is you've gone through like different series of, your work has changed a lot. There's always a thread. It's always very much you. But you've gone through different series and the work that you're doing now, right now we don't have any of the stuff that you've done over the summer in the show because, framing, there wasn't time and all that. But I do want to encourage people, if you want to see some of Jack's really brand new work, follow him on Instagram. You can just search for him on Instagram and you'll see some of that stuff. And they're a bit smaller. And I guess what I'm wondering, as an artist myself, and I know we have a lot of artists in the audience, how do you like come about when you know that things are changing? Is it hard? Is it easy? Is it sometimes both, sometimes neither? Or like, how do you, when you feel like things, oops, somebody's writing on the wall here. To turn that feature off. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you like when, say the work that you're doing now, it's different than what's in the show?
Yeah, a little bit. There's, like you said, there's threads, and there's been threads since the early 70s, really, that I've never really, they've always been important factors in my paintings. And that would be, the one would be the subtle modulation. I used to do just straight big grid paintings. And I showed those, for several years. Even when in fact, first show I had in New York, I showed the city. I showed those big grid paintings. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that would be one of the threads that, and it's always about subtle modulation, moving from dark to light or color to color, and what I should mention that I keep a color modulation little put down on my palette. I mean, I collect them each time I put it down. So at the end, sometimes I have 100 or 100 more of these color changes that really do show the color changes through each painting. I have hundreds of those things. I don't know what to do with them, but I have them. And so that's one. But as far as, I don't know, influences, you know, I didn't come out of a background of art at all. I didn't even start till I got out of the Navy. And I went to art school and first was more interested in graphic design, and that was because of a teacher I had, and he was a really true mentor. He changed my life, actually. And then when I got in, that was in a junior college in California, and I went down to San Diego State, and met my second mentor, who was a painter, and he got me interested in painting. And that's when I went to San Francisco for my graduate, and I set the sort of path that I'm still on. But influences, you know, in the beginning, I had to buy little teeny books that had, you know, Miro and Mondrian and Matisse, and because I didn't even know who these people were. And I thought if I was going to be an artist, I better start looking at these artists. And so I did. And so I was, you know, I was 25, 26 when I really started being interested in art.
We have some yellow streaks there. Some, I think that's from, somebody might have accidentally done some annotation there. So we're just going to ignore, that's not part of the painting. And I'm not really sure how to get rid of that at this point.
That's all right.
Yeah. Let's see. And this one, I love this one. I think, did we have that one up before? Oh, we didn't have this one up. This one's interesting. I've got a question here.
Good.
I didn't know all of this. This is from Ariella. I switched majors at Parsons from communication design to fine arts because of you, and you changed my life, and now I'm a happy artist and art teacher. Thank you. That's wonderful.
I appreciate that.
And Susan says, are there opportunities for you to change the composition after you begin adding color?
I have. I mean, I'm not bound to anything really, except that I do make a lot of changes. A lot of this, oh, I don't know if you could say the little flower shapes in the middle and the circles and the numbers and I mean, that all comes later, and they come from, you know, stencils. But the thing is that in the idea of going from dark to light, all those images aren't painted on top. They're really painted they're from underneath. In other words, to expose those little flower shapes, I paint around. I draw them in and paint around them. I paint around the circles, and that brings them, you know, up on those kinds of little images. So there, you know, I think every artist has their process, and I just developed a certain process over the years, and that was one. And that's probably one of the threads too, because for at least the last 30 years or more, since I've been, you know, in the Hudson Valley, I did change. When I left the city, I did change at least attitude. When I was in the city, I just didn't, I just saw all the different pop. I went through pop art. I went through minimal. I had shows with just my grid paintings. But I always sort of was influenced by something that was going on around me. When I moved upstate, I broke from that. I wasn't really influenced by all that stuff. And I think it was one of the best decisions that I ever made. Not that, everyone would have to do, like move away from the city because this city was very important to me. But I still sort of I liked the idea that I could just sort of go off on my own and just try. And I think uh, things really started developing for me after I moved out of the city. I really became, made a statement with a particular way of thinking about painting.
Mhm.
And that hopefully that's still going on. I'm getting up there in age, and I'm just very happy that I can still do what I do and still make changes and feel comfortable with them and
Yeah.
feel secure and
Well, I've seen what you've posted on Instagram. I'd love to do another studio visit. That was so much fun. But I know that there's a new series. You've posted a couple here and there, and they're different. Do you think? I mean, because we're in such a unusual time now with the pandemic and so many changes and having to rewire our brains around so many things. Does that affect your work?
well, I don't think directly, or what it has done though for both my wife and I, because we're kind of locked in, and we just moved to Hudson in January, although anyway, we don't have, we left our big studio, and the new studio will be built soon, I hope. But we did rent studio space in the city, in the Hudson, uh, and and it gave us a focus, and both of us have been doing a lot of work. I'm very happy about that.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that it really affected what I did, although this whole series that I've been working on, I did title Meanwhile, in the meanwhile. So,
Right.
uh,
Right.
and they are different. They are different. And, and I'm happy with them.
Yep.
And, and
I
I'll
think
probably keep doing it till who knows when. I don't know how long we're going to be without
yep.
a big studio.
Yeah. Well, artists do like to stay home and stay in their studios, so there are some things that have worked out okay. Um, I think artists can sometimes tend to be hermits anyway. Not that you're a hermit. You get around.
Yeah, well, more to do in Hudson than where we were living before. So
Right.
we're happy to be here.
Yeah. I've got a couple more comments here. Um, oh, congratulations, Jack. The show looks gorgeous. That's from Lillian.
Uh, Thank you, Lillian.
Sam says there's an amoeba in number 11. I'll pull up 11. I don't, well, Sam is a scientist, so somewhere in there he's an amoeba.
Well, I didn't know that, but
Yeah, I think there's so many wonderful things. This is one that's really fun. This is called Likewise. I like this one a lot. So I think, I'm not sure, I was thinking that we would go about 45 minutes. So if anyone else has any more questions, I'll give them a second to type that in. And I just want to, again, here's a view of the gallery, so you can all see what it looks like.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone that tuned in this afternoon.
Yeah.
And,
And I think actually we were able to show most of these. Although, oh, you know, I don't think I showed architecture. This one's pretty big too. This is a big one. But the room, the gallery, your work in there, it's just, it's so great. You know, there's so much energy in the room. It looks so good. So just so everyone knows, the gallery hours are Wednesday through Friday from 12 to 5, and Saturday is 12 to 4. And we're closed Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So the show runs till October 30th. We do ask when people arrive, we just have a sign on the door with our phone number, just call and we'll let you in. You don't need to make an appointment if you're coming through the regular gallery hours. But if you can't make it, if you can only make it on a Sunday or a Monday or a Tuesday, give us a call and we'll make sure we get you in there, because we do want people to see the show. It's a fantastic show. There's a couple of, let me see. I was your student at VCU, learned a lot. This is from Linda Sudarth.
oh yeah, okay.
Learned a lot from you about color and how to look. This is wonderful. Great to hear you talk about your process. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And then Sam says, I was able to see the show today. It's fantastic. And I would encourage everyone to make the trip. And definitely look for, oops, where'd it go? And definitely look for the amoeba in number 11.
I'm going to look for it.
Oh, here's another one. This is from David Brickman. Hi, Jack, Laura, everyone. Tuned in late. We're just back from Cape Cod. Can't wait to see the show. You look great. Hope to see you and Jeanette soon. Nice.
Great. Same here.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, Jack, congratulations. This is such a fantastic show. I'm so excited to have your work in the gallery. It just looks great. And I can't wait to be in the gallery next week, where I get to hang out with your work. So thank you.
Thank you.
There's one more. Jack, it's great to see the work and hear your voice. That's from Warren.
Oh.
Right. So I'm gonna stop the share here, and I'm gonna end the meeting, and hope you all can make it to the gallery. Okay. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.